It always seems to happen every couple of months with AEW. They can't escape it. They will never be able to escape what had happened with CM Punk. CM Punk continues to haunt AEW, and everything about that company always goes back to when CM Punk Brawl Out, CM Punk Jack Perry, and All In. It always seems to go back to what CM Punk did in AEW when you want to talk about the current problems with the AEW product. Every couple of months, there's a story that comes up, and yesterday was no different. Ryan Nemeth, the brother of Nick Nemeth, the current TNA World Heavyweight Champion, Dolph Ziggler. Ryan Nemeth says AEW silently fired him over issues with CM Punk. I don't know why we're still talking about CM Punk and his time in AEW when CM Punk is in WWE doing what he has to do, and AEW, their priorities should be getting their audience back and creating the captivating television that they once were creating when Punk was actually there. They've seemingly lost their way. And this story is not going to go over well for all involved. CM Punk and Ryan Nemeth. Let's build up to it. Fightful Select is reporting that a complaint was sent to AEW HR. Ryan Nemeth sent several AEW executives a complaint on September 12th of this year. In it, Nemeth outlined a timeline of events in which he was mistreated by Punk and was then given the runaround or ignored by the company when he reported Punk's alleged misconduct. In April of last year, Nemeth says he brought his concerns about potential issues between himself and Punk to AEW's top lawyer at the time, Mega. 2 months later, Nemeth had a run-in with Punk that was reported on in the summer leading up to All In 2023. After Punk's return promo on the Collision premiere, Nemeth referred to Punk as the softest man alive in a social media post. Don't know why that was said, but we'll cycle back to that in a second. That led to a locker room confrontation during which Nemeth says Punk threatened him. We don't know how he threatened him, but that was the report that Nemeth feels CM Punk threatened him. Mega, Tony Schiavone, Matt and Nick Jackson all empathized with Nemeth over his apparently antagonistic relationship with CM Punk and assured him his employment would not be impacted because of his complaint. Regardless, he still wasn't booked for the next 2 months, and in July contacted Mega to express his concern that no action had been taken over the locker room incident and that AEW was silently firing him by letting his exclusive pay-per-appearance contract expire without using him again. Gee, that sounds familiar to what Ricky Starks is going through. Gee, that sounds oddly familiar with what Ray Phoenix is going through. They are all being silently fired. Nemeth notes that he heard from Jon Moxley several times during the summer, with Mox telling him that the situation didn't sit right with him. In August, Nemeth was booked for a Collision taping, but was sent home by Punk, who the report says had a previously undisclosed executive/producer/manager title with AEW. Nemeth says he has audio recordings of some of his interactions backstage at Collision that day. Now, when Nemeth called Mega after that happened, he was booked for the August 16th Dynamite and instructed to cut a live promo in the arena that would verbally antagonize CM Punk. Why? I want you guys to really hang on to two questions of why and how in this entire video. You're going to be asking yourself why and how throughout everything I'm about to read to you. Nemeth spoke to representatives from AEW's legal and human resources departments that day, but still didn't receive a response he deemed satisfactory. Around this time, Mega exited her position at AEW, and Nemeth was now dealing with Chris Peck and Margaret Stalvey in the legal department. Mega probably quit because after the first blow-up with Brawl Out, Then we're getting all this happening now, and everything was supposed to be separated because they separated the rosters to give Punk his own show and put the Elite on the other show, and there are still problems happening. And she says, you know what? I'm throwing my hands in the air. I'm not dealing with these fucking children any longer. AEW conducted an investigation after Punk's dust-up with Jack Perry in London last year, and Nemeth participated in that. He again brought up his past complaints and worries that he would be made into a scapegoat in the entire situation. Fightful's AEW sources tell them the investigation was more about determining Punk's future in the company and wasn't focused on Nemeth and Punk's issues. Nemeth's last AEW match was in November of 2023, although his contract wouldn't expire until March of this year. He believes Tony Khan holds him responsible for having to fire CM Punk. Really now? Tony Khan, he believes Tony Khan holds him responsible for having to fire CM Punk and mentions numerous rejected or ignored pitches for his return made by producer/agent Sanjay Dutt as evidence. Nemeth also says that Peck offered him a financial settlement worth several years of his salary in exchange for signing the fabled NDA, which I'm assuming many in AEW have signed over the last 5 years. When Nemeth asked to discuss the deal further, it was all rescinded. Peck also allegedly threatened to sue Nemeth over his submitted timeline and told him he'd be placing himself in an antagonistic position to Mega, with whom Nemeth had a good relationship, if the issue went to arbitration. I don't even know where to begin with this. I really don't. I mean, I don't believe we're about to dive back into the timeline of what happened with Punk and his time in AEW. I have everything pulled up here. I took notes on this. I have all my notes still from the fucking first time we talked about this. And it's unbelievable how we are now diving back into this. I want to give Tony Khan credit. I do. I know I give him grief. I know I give him a very difficult time on a week-to-week basis creatively. The shows aren't where they need to be. He is to blame for mostly all of AEW's problems. He doesn't have the right people around him. He needs to hire Hollywood writers or writers in general that know what they are doing and know how to tell a complex, engaging, interesting story on a week-to-week basis that keeps the fans invested in week-to-week television, episodic television. He has not done that. And the team that he has right now doesn't have a fucking clue on how to do that. We did get that when he was there, CM Punk. We did get that when Cody was there. Because those two men and the old school ideologies that those two men brought to the table, they were always going to outweigh and outshine what Tony Khan and whoever he had on his team was bringing to the table. You're not going to tell Punk no. You're not going to not listen to CM Punk. You're not going to not listen to Cody Rhodes and the rich history and the knowledge that he has gained over the years. When Punk came in, it was a celebration like nobody's ever seen before. Tony Khan made this happen. Tony Khan brought CM Punk out of retirement after 7 years, and he made it into one of the greatest moments in the history of the business. Something that people still look back on and still get goosebumps about watching to this very day. Tony Khan should be praised for doing the one thing that nobody thought was even humanly possible, and that is bringing CM Punk back to professional wrestling. He's owed a lot of credit for making that happen. I don't know what was discussed. I don't know what Tony Khan promised CM Punk. I don't know what he told CM Punk about a return, images and illusions of grandeur. I don't know what he said in that discussion and what made CM Punk say, you know what? I think now is the time. Vince was still in charge. There was still this disenfranchised feeling about WWE. It was easy to shit on WWE. It was an easy decision. If CM Punk sat down with Tony Khan and wanted to make a difference, they were on the verge of making a difference. They did make a difference in regards to everything. And it was easy to be the alternative. It was easy to be the new game in town and have everybody on your side and all the excitement surrounding the company. It was easy to fall in love with that because Vince was still running WWE at the time, and he was running it into the ground. And nobody enjoyed what was coming off that show, and we all looked to Punk and Tony Khan as the saviors of professional wrestling at that time. Tony is owed a lot of credit for that. Punk comes in, huge party. Everybody's excited. Wrestles Darby Allin for the first match in 7 years. Punk wrestles Darby Allin on pay-per-view. They do blockbuster numbers on pay-per-view for a challenger brand against WWE. There is no way WWE is looking at this and not taking notice and not worried about what's going on. Darby Allin, Powerhouse Hobbs, Danny Garcia, Eddie Kingston, who probably didn't have a lot of goodwill with CM Punk, didn't like CM Punk, but worked a match at Full Gear 2021. And it ended up being great. It was short, it was sweet, it was to the point, but it ended up being great. Obviously, you know his multiple matches with MJF, which resulted in the dog collar match at Revolution 2022. Probably, to this day, the best feud in AEW history, with Adam Page and Swerve Strickland probably riding its coattails. Still, Punk and MJF and the story that they told and the feud that they had was fucking the shit that we all desired. It was stuff that we all dreamt of. Shit that was just so raw and unadulterated that we desperately needed it. And they both gave it to us. Ricky Starks, he wrestled Ricky Starks. He wrestled Pentagon Jr. He wrestled John Silver. He wrestled Dustin Rhodes. And then we get to Adam Page. Before we even get to Adam Page, before we even get to what happened and the promo where they went off script, Tony Khan should have made one thing abundantly clear, and this is where he fails as a leader to AEW. You knew that you were bringing in CM Punk and that some of your locker room probably didn't want him there. I don't know why an all-hands-on-deck meeting wasn't held with Tony Khan leading the charge, being the leader that he needed to be. He did not show everybody he's a leader, and he showed everybody exactly what he is. Ha, 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 look, I got CM Punk. Look at my new fancy toy, man. Nobody's going to touch me with this in my collection. He did not do what needed to be done as a leader. And what I mean by that is he knew exactly that with Punk coming in, there was going to be a problem eventually with Colt Cabana. I don't know why he didn't sit both of them down and become the man that we needed him to be in that moment. He should have sat everybody down. Should have sat Punk down. Should have sat Colt Cabana down and said, this is my business. I am paying you people to perform. You do what I say. And if there is any problems, there will be consequences. I don't want no bullshit. And if I hear one fucking peep from anybody, there is going to be consequences. And both of you will pay the price. That's it. I don't know why he did not make that abundantly clear. So when Punk got there, he let CM Punk, Tony Khan let CM Punk run amok of AEW. Now, there was excitement at first, sure, because Punk and the name value that Punk brings, even after 7 years, was going to take AEW to levels that it's never seen before, so everybody was clearly on board. But I don't know what happened when he got there. I don't know what he saw when he got there. Maybe he saw something that we're seeing now, and he wanted to rectify it and nip it in the bud right there. And everybody caused a shitstorm. Everybody had a problem with him immediately coming on in after 7 years, wanting to do this, wanting to do that, wanting to change this, wanting to change that. And they thought, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Not only is he making upwards towards $5 million a year to perform for our company, the Bucks are looking at this, the Elite are looking at this, silently having a problem. They're losing their relationship with Tony Khan because they were the sparkle in Tony's eye. They were the reason why this company got started. And now CM Punk is here, and he's the new sparkle in Tony Khan's eye, and he's the reason why the company is going to be taken to the heights that it's going to be taken to, and not the elite. So we don't know for sure, but there had to be some professional jealousy, personal jealousy there between the elite and CM Punk. And that only got worse as time went on. So you mix that with the Colt Cabana situation, and Colt Cabana is besties with the elite, and then you have a recipe for disaster. So who knows what happened in that time between his first match with Darby, coming on in, wrestling Darby, and then that feud with Adam Page, where it was the night where we got the fabled workers' rights promo. And Adam Page went off script. Why? Why? Why wasn't it deaded when Punk got there? Why wasn't it discussed when Punk first got into AEW with Colt Cabana? The workers' rights promo was all based on Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana was made into an example. He was taken off television. He didn't have a regular spot on television, but he was featured here and there. They did not use him. I don't remember if his contract was coming up and Tony wasn't going to bring him back, but then they ended up bringing him back and they put him on Ring of Honor. Punk didn't want him in the locker room. Punk didn't want anything to do with him. Punk didn't want him on the same show that Punk was working. I don't know why this wasn't settled when Punk got there on day one. Why? Why did Adam Page go and cut that promo? Why did that need to be said? Why did that need to be aired out in the public on live television? Who writes this shit? Does nobody sit there and approve what's going to be said on live television? If I'm Tony Khan and I heard that via the headset sitting in Gorilla, he was legitimately right behind the curtain, I would have pulled these two guys aside and said, that's it. I hear one more fucking outburst. I see one more person go off the script. No pun intended. If I hear one more person take another cheap shot at somebody that's unwarranted, that has nothing to do with the story that we're telling towards your match at the pay-per-view, you're both fined and you're both suspended. And I'll take you off television as quick as I could fucking breathe. I don't know why that wasn't said. So then we get to the pay-per-view. Then we get to the pay-per-view. He wins the world championship. Fast forward a little bit. We get Jon Moxley. CM Punk wrestled Jon Moxley and won the AEW championship. And then the fabled night of Brawl Out happened, where he calls Adam Page a stupid, dumb fuck. And he goes on and blasts the elite, saying that they can't run a fucking Target, let alone a pro wrestling company. All the while that Tony Khan is sitting right next to CM Punk. On that night, by the way, he got injured and was out for 9 months that followed. I'll get to that in a second. And after his sit down with Tony Khan, Brawl Out happened. Why did the Adam Page promo get on live television? Why did CM Punk and Tony Khan not talk about Colt Cabana beforehand? Why wasn't Tony Khan sitting down with Adam Page and CM Punk after that workers' rights promo? Why did Tony Khan just sit there like a fucking deer in headlights and let CM Punk bury the people, the men that he went into business with to start All Elite Wrestling? All these whys. Why this? Why that? Why did that happen? Why did this happen? Not one single fucking resolution to anything. And it all goes back to Tony Khan. I don't know what type of power Tony Khan gave CM Punk upon signing to AEW. It said executive producer manager. For all we know, CM Punk was also a EVP. Just going to throw that out there. He probably had more power than all of the elite combined. And Tony was really leaning on him to get the job done, to take AEW to the next level. Of course, Tony was going to look at him in higher regard than everybody because this was the payday that Tony Khan was looking for. This was going to take AEW to a brand new TV deal, ratings. This was going to be the moment he could honestly say, I'm going to compete with WWE because look at what they're doing. Look at who's running that place. I got my pieces to the puzzle, and we're making a huge run at becoming the number one brand in all of the industry. Not monetarily, but as far as the fans and what they want and what they want to see, he was well on his way to doing that. Brawl Out happens. Kenny Omega, the Elite, Ace Steel, Larry, the Bucks, Jericho, Christopher Daniels, Brandon Cutler, whoever else was involved, everybody was suspended. They stripped the Elite of the Trios Championships. They stripped CM Punk of the AEW World Championship. Lucky for him, he was injured and had to sit out 9 months. This is a what-if situation. What would Tony Khan have done if Punk wasn't injured? Would he have still stripped him of the championship and suspended him? And for how long? That's going to be one of the biggest what-ifs in the history of AEW. What if Punk did not get injured and we still got everything that happened with All Out? Nobody knows. So at least Tony Khan had a reason to strip CM Punk, not because of the Brawl Out situation, but because he was injured and he was unable to compete for 9 months, so they needed an interim champion at the time, which they did crown, and went right back to Jon Moxley, who cut a very emphatic Rally the Troops promo, probably the best one that AEW's ever had anybody recite on live television. So CM Punk sits out for 9 months. He sits out for 9 months, and we get stories about Punk from other people on the roster. People were still talking about Punk. At this point, Punk did not say a thing to anybody. Not a single fucking word. They were planning on bringing him back. He was coming back. And they even created a new show for him called AEW Collision. And he showed up on June 17th, 2023. And Collision was going to be his show. Collision was going to be his baby. Everything that CM Punk wanted, they gave to him. Tony bent over backwards and gave this guy what he wanted. And at that point, it was pretty easy to see. You don't have to work there to see it. CM Punk's actions were pretty much a giveaway, dead fucking giveaway to where he wanted to go and what he wanted to do. At that point, they were basically giving him whatever he wanted to retain the rights of CM Punk. At that point, he didn't want to be there. He didn't. He showed up on Monday Night Raw backstage in Chicago during that January. He was in the middle of rehabilitation. He wanted to speak to Hunter. He wanted to speak to The Miz. He was making amends with some people because they were in town. All under AEW watch, all under AEW contract. How do you expect them to take that? $5 million man, the guy that AEW is fucking putting their hopes and dreams into, he shows up on WWE or in WWE backstage wanting to speak with the man who's eventually going to take the fucking company over. Gee, I wonder what he wanted to discuss. I wonder why he wanted to make amends. He knew then where he wanted to be. He knew he didn't want to be in AEW that January. February, March, April, May. Come June and the debut of Collision, they're giving this guy the fucking world. He don't want to be there. He's basically saying, let me give this another shot. How bad could it be if we're going to split the rosters? I'm here, and then the Bucks are over there. That didn't work, clearly. That did not work at all, which brings us to the power that CM Punk had. Ever since the Brawl Out situation, Punk was given more power when Collision debuted. It's just fucking mind-boggling how much more power. He had power upon coming on in. He had more power. He was the second most powerful man in AEW next to Tony Khan. This guy started the most blackest of days in the company. He was suspended. He was fined. He was stripped. He had to go get surgery, out for 9 months, and he came back with even more power than before he had with Brawl Out. So you don't think the Elite are looking at all this and saying, what the fuck, man? This is our company, yet Tony is still relying on this guy, yet we're right here. I don't blame Tony. That was his meal ticket. One bill fill. That was his meal ticket. And the Bucks, they could do nothing about it. Adam Page could do nothing about it. Kenny Omega, Brandon Cutler, Christopher Daniels, and anybody else associated with the Elite couldn't do a fucking thing about it. So then Punk gets to Collision. It's his show. Whoever he wants on the show, it's up to him. Whoever he doesn't want on the show, it's up to him. Who he wants to send home, we heard reports of Matt Hardy being sent home. We had reports of Christopher Daniels, who's the fucking head of fucking talent relations there. He got sent home. That's how much power Punk had. He sent the head of talent relations home because he didn't want him there because of his relationship with the Elite. Look at how much power he had. Then we get to the Ryan Nemeth situation. And this is where it really gets fucking bizarre because I don't really understand how we even got here in the first place. So, Collision. He was an executive, he was a manager, he was a producer. Nemeth says he had audio recordings of some of the interactions backstage at Collision that day. I don't understand how Punk comes back after 9 months. He's given Collision. We get Nemeth going on social media, calling him the softest man alive. For what reason? Why? I don't understand why that needed to be said when you just had the company go through the blackest of incidents, and then you want to pick a fight with the guy who was the center of the biggest controversy in the company. Why did that need to be said? Unless he was told to do it with the promise of nothing would happen to him. Softest man alive. And you know with what Punk did and what Punk said and Tony doing nothing about it, you don't think Punk is going to confront you in the locker room when you're on the same fucking show as him. So he sent Nemeth home. So he sent Christopher Daniels home. And we hear these stories about him sending this one and that one home. You got to understand something about CM Punk. You break the man. I don't know the man personally. I'm just making a theory out of what I hear and what I read and what I see. I don't know the man at all. But it looks like and it sounds like if you break that man's trust, it is over. There are no second chances with him. Gaining his trust is the most difficult thing to do. And if you have his trust and you have his friendship, you do whatever you can to maintain that with a professional level of respect. I appreciate that, and many people appreciate that about CM Punk. But he's not innocent in this situation. Nick Nemeth did what he did. Christopher Daniels, nobody knows what happened at Brawl Out, so it could be something that happened there where he lost CM Punk's trust. But from what we know on the surface level, we don't know what Christopher Daniels did or said to CM Punk. He got sent home by Punk. That was Punk's show, but he's the head of talent relations. Punk, instead of being a professional, he sent Christopher Daniels home with absolutely no rhyme or reason from our vantage point. He didn't even bother to give Christopher Daniels a shot to gain his trust. He's not Matt or Nick Jackson. He's not Kenny Omega. He's not Colt Cabana. He's not Brandon Cutler. He's not Adam Page. He's the head of talent relations. He's supposed to be an impartial, right down the middle entity in this entire thing. And he sent him home because one guy, one group broke his trust, clearly didn't want him there, and he felt attacked, and he was going to do everything in his power to get that negativity away from him. And he was never going to allow any of those people, any of that group back into his circle. This was his show. This was his entire project, and he was going to run it the way he wanted. Tony made him the second most powerful man in the company. So Nemeth was confronted. CM Punk confronted Nick Nemeth. Fine. But then I don't understand. He was moved to Dynamite. Now, I don't remember Nick Nemeth being in anything serious on AEW television. He was not in any major storylines. He was doing what? I mean, I don't know. The Wingman, whatever, whatever, this fucking group that he had with Peter Avalon and JD Drake. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. They had absolutely zero to do with television. They were nothing more than comedy fodder, a comedy group. So this incident happened. Punk sent him home. They sent him to Dynamite, and they want him to verbally eviscerate CM Punk on a live promo on Dynamite. Why? Who okayed this? Why was this allowed to happen? How did this get through management and be given a green light on television? Now, thankfully, somebody stepped in and it didn't happen. But I don't really understand why something like that was done. Who okayed that? Did Matt and Nick Jackson okay that on Dynamite? Was Tony Khan not there? Why was Tony Khan there and this didn't go through him? We're under the assumption that everything goes through Tony Khan. Did he okay it? Was he not aware of it? Are the inmates really running the asylum? Why was that even a fucking thought for that Dynamite show? I don't understand how we got here. And it all falls back on two things. Tony Khan is a fucking terrible leader. He doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Even if he does, he doesn't give a shit. And then the inmates are running the asylum. He let the Young Bucks do whatever the fuck they wanted. They can't be on Collision. All right, we'll show him. This is our show, and we'll take cheap shots at him over there because we're on separate brands and Tony split us up. He can't do nothing to us, and we can't do nothing to him, so we'll just have someone cut a promo. They use this poor fucking guy as a scapegoat to get their frustrations out about CM Punk because they verbally couldn't do it themselves because it would be fucking blatant as blatant could be. Why? Are we running a pro wrestling company or are we running the fucking circus? These people wanted to run a pro wrestling company without the responsibility of running a pro wrestling company. They hired it's the way it seems, they hired all their friends to run a pro wrestling company. They don't have a fucking clue as to what needs to be done or what is going on. And then they hired the one guy who's got more money than fucking God to fund their little fucking circus. And he's not going to say anything because all he does is look at everybody with fucking glassy eyes. He's so happy to just be there and befriend these guys. And he's happy to collect these fucking guys, all these men and women, like fucking trophies on a mantle. What a recipe for fucking disaster. The sloppiest of shops I have ever seen. I don't get it. I don't know how you look at this as a fan and are still a fan of AEW. It all falls back on Tony Khan. It all falls back on the men that he gave power to. He gave CM Punk way too much power. He gave Matt and Nick Jackson way too much power. He let Adam Page go and do whatever he wanted to do, say whatever he wanted on TV. He neglected talking with Colt Cabana and CM Punk because he does not want confrontation and he does everything to avoid it. He don't give a shit. He didn't say anything about Adam Page and the promo he cut on workers' rights. I would have deaded that right as they both walked through the curtain. And then Brawl Out, he was sitting right next to CM Punk. I would have fucking cut the microphone and cut the fucking feed to the scrum as soon as he started going off. Tony Khan watched his company burn to the ground with the one guy that he had hopes and dreams of taking this company to be bigger and better than WWE. He put all of that in CM Punk's lap and he let it all burn to the ground. And he was watching and staring on and did nothing about it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and completely blame Tony Khan. I'm not. But the obvious downfall of AEW happened with Brawl Out. They're still reeling from the effects of it. It is a terrible situation that continues to haunt them and will continue to haunt them until their doors close. You could look at it at any vantage point you want. Oh, Tony Khan, he rested his hopes and dreams in Jack Perry and the Bucks and fired the one biggest star that he possibly could ever acquire. You could look at it that way. Did Tony Khan do the right thing and fire CM Punk? You could look at it any which way you want. At the moment when we all were involved in it and we were hearing the stories that came out about it, it made it seem that he made the right decision and people were respectful of him for making the right decision and finally standing up to be a boss. But he did so much wrong leading up to that I don't even think you could even give him the props for firing CM Punk because he should have deaded that fucking shit 18 months before it all fucking happened. Punk is not innocent. Though everything he says now after the fact has been factually correct. I will give him that. But even now, he still kind of acts unprofessionally when he doesn't really have to. He can always take the high road and be the better man. He doesn't need to go on Ariel Helwani, though he was asked and he gave his honest opinion, which any human being would do. Just field questions and say, I don't want anything to do with AEW. I'm in WWE right now. Just had the biggest feud of my fucking career. I'm going into War Games. We're going to WrestleMania. I don't want anything to do or anything as far as topics of AEW to come up in this interview. That's it. That's all he has to do. But Punk continues to poke the bear. Whenever he can, he takes the cheap shots at AEW. And AEW is no better. I mean, the whole fucking disaster that was the footage from All In with Jack Perry that aired and they played it off. It was as if it was some major fucking storyline development with the Young Bucks and FTR and the reason why they lost that year. Are you fucking kidding me? No, the reason why you aired the footage was because you saw the Ariel Helwani clip with CM Punk and you wanted to get back at him to make him look bad, but all it did is make CM Punk look right. Because nothing from that footage made you fear for your life, and nothing from that footage was even remotely close to being a fucking fight. So why'd you fire him? We went from everything that we just discussed here, bringing the guy back, Ryan Nemeth, who was told to go cut a promo because they couldn't do it. The Bucks couldn't do it. Don't know how or why that was even a fucking thought in anybody's head. Then Ryan Nemeth was made into a scapegoat. They silently fired him, which is exactly what they did to him and continue to do with everybody else that you see now currently in the news. And then they use Jack Perry as the scapegoat because they can't use Omega. They can't use the Bucks. They can't use Paige. Too many high-profile names. So Jack Perry was the latest scapegoat, which is quite the coincidence that now that's his gimmick. He was the scapegoat. Real Glass, he said something on live television. Punk got upset. At that point, Punk was done. Punk, who knows if he wanted out or if even he asked Tony Khan to be let out. I don't know why. If he didn't want to be there, just go to Tony Khan. I want to be let out. I don't want to be here. I don't. What's Tony Khan going to do? Force him on television? Go to court, get it settled, get out of the fucking contract. He didn't want to be there. Quit. Tony wanted him. Tony needed him. Tony desperately needed this to work. He just let it go on. Frustrations continued to mount. Real Glass, Jack Perry, All In, fired. He wanted to get out at that point. He probably asked to want to be let go, and Tony said no. So he looked for a way out, and then he fucking put his hands on Jack Perry, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. For all we know, that's exactly the way that it happened. Punk could have handled himself a little bit better. A lot better. Everybody could have handled themselves a lot better. CM Punk, I want you guys to think about the two things that we always reference in regards to AEW's downfall. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk. Two vastly huge deals in AEW and two completely different ways that they've went out. Cody Rhodes had a deal expire and he told Tony, I want to stay. We don't know what was discussed. We don't know what was said between them. It was said privately in a discussion that will probably never ever understand what came out of that meeting. But Tony was obviously upset about what happened there. Tony was upset that Cody just walked and went to WWE. Who knows what was said there? All I know and all I vividly remember is Cody losing power, the vision of the company kind of not feeling the same even at that point with Brandy and Cody leaving. I remember the statement that Tony Khan put out. He put himself at the bottom of that fucking statement. And he said, CEO, head of creative, president, whatever other fucking title he wanted to give him. He was wearing 3 or 4 different hats in that same statement when Cody departed from the company. Now, Cody left and didn't say a fucking word about Tony Khan, the meeting, what was said there, or AEW. Cody went and did his thing, finished his story. He wished everybody well, continues to wish everybody well, and handles it with a fucking beautiful sense of professionalism. That's Cody Rhodes. CM Punk could have did the same thing and opted not to. So CM Punk, the way that I just described it earlier is, if If you lose his trust, it is over. And he is as vindictive as a human being as you will find. That is just the nature of how he's built. But if he wanted to really come and start anew, he could have. He just didn't want to be there anymore. They bent over backwards and gave this guy everything, gave this guy more power, and he could have welcomed everybody and started fresh. The Bucks, Paige, and everybody else in that incident is on the other show. Show them how it's done. Even though we have people that are affiliated with them on this show, let me welcome them in. Let me start anew. And that clearly didn't happen because they were continuing to push his buttons on the other show. He got wind of it. Ryan Nemeth was a scapegoat. Jack Perry was a scapegoat. He took his anger, did Punk out on Matt Hardy, who had a friendship and a relationship with the Bucks, Christopher Daniels, so on and so forth. Look at the fucking mismanagement that led from his arrival to where he got fired and everything in between. Tony Khan is to blame. The Bucks are to blame. Adam Page is to blame. Ryan Nemeth, not Nick. Ryan Nemeth to blame. Jack Perry to blame. Christopher Daniels, Colt Cabana. Nobody wanted to sit down with this guy. Nobody. They let him do and say whatever he wanted. Everybody was allowed to do and say whatever they wanted, and Tony Khan just looked on with his fucking sunglasses on and his white claw, and he just let everything burn to the ground. He didn't want any confrontation whatsoever. I don't understand how this man was allowed to go on TV and was told to cut a promo on CM Punk when he had nothing to do with any storylines regarding CM Punk. Why would you do that to this man? Why would you allow all this to happen? The sloppiest of shops I have ever fucking seen in any instance, as long as I've been doing this as a full-time content creator, they should be fucking ashamed of themselves. And then they wonder why their audience has dwindled and dwindled and dwindled and have not recovered from the day you showed the footage of All In. You used CM Punk, a guy who was employed by another company, your competition, and you used him to gain clicks and views, to make it into a storyline. Whatever happened in August, you made into a storyline in April. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous is that? I called it out immediately. I don't give a fuck if the Young Bucks lost to FTR or not. I don't give a shit. The following month, they teamed up at All Out. They went from wrestling at All In to following up with All Out to teaming together. And then you want to sell it to me as the reason why the Young Bucks lost to FTR? Because Punk was affiliated with FTR? And the Bucks lost because of the mental strain that happened at All Out. Or All In, rather. This company is a complete shell of its original concept. Terrible. I don't know how anybody looks at this and says, I'm a fan of AEW. I'm embarrassed to even tell anybody I watch AEW. I'm embarrassed to watch weekly television on a consistent basis. I feel nothing. Tony Khan now has undertaken the role of every fucking possible hat he could wear in the company and is driving the company into the ground. He took the power away from Kenny Omega, took the power away from Cody, took the power away from the Young Bucks, and look at where it's gotten him. He goes and hires some Mark podcaster to write stories for him. He goes and hires these people that have no ability to tell a full-fledged story with any emotional tie-ins and investment from the audience. And he goes out there and puts on banger matches because that's what he thinks is the true alternative to what WWE is doing with no rhyme or reason. He does what he wants. He riles up the soldiers. He doesn't like to be picked on. He doesn't understand why AEW is constantly being attacked. Look yourself in the fucking mirror, my friend. You are the reason. Your neglect is the reason. Your ignorance is the reason. You thinking that you are Mr. fucking, IWC over here. Oh, I was a moderator on the Wrestling Observer message boards. Give me a fucking break. The one thing you need to do is distance yourself from the Observer and distance yourself from Meltzer and distance yourself from the people that you have surrounded yourself with. Take some of that $555 million and hire some Hollywood writers who are going to captivate an audience and give me a reason to watch next week's show. Could not be bothered to give a shit about Beast Mortos versus Daniel Garcia happening next week on television. That's what you're expecting me to care about. When one show ends, that's what you want me to say. I can't wait till next week's show. No. Company is so far lost and so far gone, I can't even begin to tell you what we could do, where to start to fix what is currently wrong with AEW. But all I know is Cody left, CM Punk left, Brandy left, and things went right down the fucking toilet. And they continued to make mistake after mistake after mistake. And they have not recovered and continue to dig themselves a hole that they are not going to dig themselves out of. And everybody is to blame. Tony, CM Punk, the Bucks, Paige, everybody involved. Every single person involved is to blame. But it all comes back to Tony. If he was the leader that this company needed, none of this would be an issue. Do you genuinely believe if Triple H was running this entire show and all of this happened under Triple H's watch or Vince McMahon's watch? I hate the fucking man, but I'm going to give him some props here. Do you honestly think if this happened under either one of those men's watch, that we would be in a situation that we're in right now? Absolutely not. Tony is a failed leader. And when AEW dies, because it will have died because of Tony Khan. And I have to preface this. Punk could have been a little bit more professional. Punk could have followed the Cody Rhodes path. I'm sure Tony took issue with Cody Rhodes leaving. You utter the words Cody, or you're friends with Cody. Utter the words CM Punk. And then tell everybody you're friends with CM Punk, you respect CM Punk or Cody Rhodes. You are dead to rights. You are silently fired. Look at what's happening with several others on that roster right now, who I am sure are suffering the same fate, and I'm sure have been straddled with the fabled NDA. I don't think this story is anywhere close to where it needs to be from Fightful, and they really kind of cherry-picked around some of the details and didn't really go into full detail about exactly what had happened here. Because I'm sure we'll all make Tony Khan and the Elite and AEW look bad, and my God, man, paid Fightful can't make AEW look bad. They're losing people left and right and losing trust in the community left and right, man. Fightful's all they got right now. Meltzer's all they got right now. The shills that you see, you know who they are all they got right now. Fucking hanging on by a thread. Meanwhile, this side of the IWC, all they want is good creative. All we want is that feeling restored. And it's nowhere in sight. CM Punk and what he said after the fact has been factually correct. Does he need to take that road? No. It's funny to listen to because it's all fucking true. And there is truth in humor, or humor in truth. So you can't blame, you can't say he's wrong. Can't say the likes of Bischoff and Cornette or myself have been wrong lately. Some have been more right far longer than some of us are. Some of us are now just seeing how bad it really is. It wasn't really all that bad, to be quite honest with you. I would tell you, I would let you know. I would have told you by now. But it's fucking bad. It really is bad right now. This entire situation is a fucking embarrassment. And everybody in that company should be fucking ashamed. And the fact that this is still being raised as a topic of discussion in 2024, we're heading into 2025, is fucking sad. Let me know what you guys think about this, man. Let me know what you think about... and by the way, I forgot to mention this. Ryan Nemeth believes Tony Khan holds him responsible. Tony Khan is the one who should be held responsible. Tony Khan allowed all this to happen on his watch, and he did nothing about it. If Tony honestly believes Ryan Nemeth is to blame, then Tony is as delusional as any human being alive walking God's green earth. Tony Khan is to blame. It's all going to come back to him because of who he is and what type of power he holds in the company. Let me know what you guys think about this. This is a story that I'm sure will not hear the end of it. This is not the last. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section about Ryan Nemeth this silently fired story that broke yesterday on Fightful. Let me know what you think of the entire situation down in the comment section below. I appreciate you guys very much, man. Thank you for spending your Thursdays with me. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications. And please go and check out all the great content on the channel. There's plenty of it with more coming tomorrow, man. We're going to have a great December, and I'm glad you guys are joining me right here as we head into the holidays, man. Hit that thumbs up. 1,000 likes is the goal, and I will see you guys right back here tomorrow with more on Off the Script. I'll see you guys later.